Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Our guest today is a Guinness World Record holder, author, and an international business advisor who consults with more than 300 business owners across 10 countries. Over the years, his clients have enjoyed a 20% increase in their revenue streams after applying his methods. And today, he's going to show you how to improve your sales funnel and reinvigorate your business. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to the Win Sales Now podcast, our good friend, Jacob Aldridge. Welcome.
Welcome.
It's an honor just to be nominated. Thank you for having me.
Well, offline, we're talking about IVF and coming again, and I got to say, you're a success already. You're the sperm that got the egg. So you're already a winner.
and so are we all. Wasn't it Monty Python who said, you must remember how incredibly unlikely is your birth. We've already won at the battle of life. Everything else is just content.
I love it. I love it. Now, you've had a couple of big wins over the years, a lot of client success, but also personal success with winning a Guinness World Record. Let's start there. Can you take us on the journey with you?
Well, you may be familiar with Eliud Kipchoge, who recently ran a marathon in under 2 hours, fastest marathon ever run. He also holds the official Guinness World Record for a marathon, just over 2 hours. That's not bad. My world record, I was the first person in the world to watch more than 60 hours of movies without falling asleep. World record movie marathon. Thank you. By my calculation, 60 hours is 30 lots of 2 hours. So I'm 30 times the athlete that Kipchoge is.
Whoa.
Now, what about some of the stipulated rules around this? Because as I was reading your article, there's rules and regulations, and it had to be sanctioned.
It's incredibly how detailed the Guinness book is. I mean, it's obviously well respected, and it's a great name. It's a question that I do get asked even years later. So it's something that means something, and they have to be the rules. They came at about font size 8 to very, very dense pages with lots and lots of detail around witnesses. We needed medical personnel on hand at all times, because even though I was sitting and watching film, it was still considered a marathon. And the hardest rule, which they've actually changed since then, we were only allowed to leave the room and go to the bathroom after every third movie. So over 3 days, we started on a Saturday, finished on a Tuesday. Over 3 days, you had to time all of the films, all of the breaks, all of the coffee drinking around those bathroom opportunities. And they've since scrapped that rule, made it a lot easier. So the current record holders, really for mine, have basically cheated.
Cheap bastards they are. Incredible. Now, you also talk about sales funnel, and you talk about the statistics in business. You get 10 inquiries, you break it down, you get then 3 become highly qualified leads, 1 in 3 end up buying your products and services, and a business just can't survive on those numbers. So you've changed this funneling process, and you're now talking about an hourglass. And case studies in your latest book, The Startup Business Guide, demonstrate that somebody can get 10 leads, 9 inquiries, and 9 sales. So can you step us through this and how this is increasing the sales and the revenues of the companies that you're working with?
Absolutely. And it is, I think, fundamentally, it's part of the belief process that if we think of business and sales as a funnel, something gets to the end of the funnel, it drops out. Whereas especially in B2B businesses, professional services, which is a lot of my clients, it's an ongoing relationship. And that's where we turn the funnel into an hourglass. How do we leverage that ongoing relationship? But that client that we talked about in my book that managed that dramatic shift, he went from just having his fair share, 10, 3, 1, about 1 in 3, that were converting at each step, how we ramped that up. That was a 3-step process. The first thing we did was we changed where the leads were coming from. So he was spending money on marketing, spray and pray, all of those things that a marketing consultant will tell you to do. And it wasn't working for him. He wasn't getting the right clients. So we shifted that, stopped the marketing spend, shifted his time to go out and build client referrals and strategic referral channels. So it's building those. The second thing we did was getting him super clear on who his ideal client was, how they would engage with him, and then training those referral channels to actually go out and essentially be a sales force for him. And so with that shift, he's still getting the same number of leads, but they're much more qualified. And in some cases, they're almost pre-sold because that referral partner of that client has said, you need to go and talk with this person. They will help your business. And then the third thing we did was actually focus on the sales meeting. When you're sitting in front of somebody, are you just having a chat, a gas bag, a chin wag, hoping that they'll buy at the end of it? Or do you actually have a systematic process that you're following? And in my case, we talk about the gratitude sales model, which is a contextual flow that a person has in that sales meeting that gets that person to buy in a thinking space, in a feeling space, and in a knowing space so that they commit to the relationship. It took time, it took change, it took commitment on behalf of that client. But the results are there. 9 times as many clients from the same number of leads. Who doesn't want that?
Everybody wants it, and they should. And, you know, it was starting to trigger some thoughts here from our clients that we work with, is you start to talk about niching or finding your ideal client, and these fears of missing out start to pop up. But, you know, Daniel, what if I'm so niche over here, but, you know, there's another 7 billion people on the planet? What range of fears do you see them go through at this stage?
And I don't know about you, Daniel, if 7 billion people wanted to buy my advisory services, I'd be stuffed.
Yeah. I'm buggered after 10 hours.
So yeah, those fears do come up. What if I'm missing out? And that's where, with my clients, I talk about content versus context. Generally, people invite me into their business or invite me to talk to their clients or their staff around something in the content. We want to talk about sales, or I want to talk about culture, strategy, whatever. And I say, well, first we need to go up to the context. Context gives meaning to the content. And specifically when it comes to ideal clients, what's the vision you have for your business today? What's the strategy you're implementing to get there? And if you're super clear on that, then that guides the clients you want to work with, and you don't mind the ones that you miss out on. So last year, as we've talked about in the past, you know, my beautiful wife and I managed to have our first child. Key vision for us was working on the road. We spent about 5 or 6 months of last year traveling around Europe with family. I was doing some work and some travel. And so I was earning less money. I was having to say no to client opportunities, and I was losing client opportunities because they didn't fit within what my business model was. But I had that strong anchor of, this is what I want for my life, for my family, and therefore for my business. And that gets rid of all of that noise that a client might have around, oh, am I too niched?
We had the same experience in 2017. I've been traveling backwards and forwards from Europe a lot. And we said, we need to change our business model. And we were getting inquiry after inquiry. We're making huge amounts of low volume sales. So we're busy making a little bit of money. So we took some good business advice. We changed the model, increased the prices. We changed the target. And it was like as if all inquiries stopped. And we started to freak out because we went
How did that feel?
You go from 50 appointments a week down to 1, but then you got to readjust because you realize that one person who comes through ends up spending 3 and 4 and 5 times the amount of the other people combined. And an example was, we had 100 people in a program. They were paying $100 each to be in there. But it took us 6 minutes to service that client every day between sessions. So it was 10 grand.
Yeah.
Where once we changed the model, there was 10 clients at $1,000 each. And because they were high quality clients, they didn't bother you between sessions. And when it came to their session time, they showed up ready. So 10 clients, 10,000, 100 clients, 10,000.
Yeah, very different.
I got my website to #1 on Google for people searching business coach in Brisbane, which is where I'm based, which was fantastic. And the inquiries that created were, you know, it was excellent, the volume of work, but it was a lot of clients that weren't right for me. And so what I then did was I added a page around how much does business coach cost, and I actually put my prices out there, which is unusual in a lot of service industries. And the volume went down enormously, almost overnight. And it's fantastic. I'm not getting any fewer clients from it, but I'm not having to do nearly as many sales meetings with people that aren't really a fit and aren't going to get value out of what I'm delivering at the price I deliver it at.
Years ago, if we look at these sales trainings coming out of the 70s and 80s, it was always like, hide your price. Don't tell them the price.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You got to hide it.
Get them on the hook.
Yeah, I believe it's one of the best qualifying approaches. You know, there's some instances that you honestly can't give a price and you've got to go through the consultation. But if you can demonstrate your price, they can qualify themselves. And they say, look, this is in my range. I'm going to talk to this person, or it's out of my range and I'm not going to bother them and I'm not going to embarrass myself when they ask me for the order. I think it's a great strategy.
Yeah, well, the research back in classified ad days, and I started in the world of journalism at the start of my career, you know, an advertisement with a price had 8 times as much inquiry as one that didn't. And that's and a lot of people, business owners, would assume it's the other way around. If I don't have a price, I'll get all these people and I'll be able to upsell them, or I'll be able to, and that's not actually the case. Prospects are uncertain. Their time is valuable. They don't want to waste it. They want some kind of certainty, knowing your price, knowing, just like other things we give them confidence with. When they see case studies, testimonials, credentials, they get a strong referral. The more confident they can be when they come to the sales meeting, the more of a fit they are, the easier the sales meeting actually goes for you.
You might remember this around 1999 to 2000. There was a system of real estate called the Genman Real Estate System.
I do.
And we're involved in it. And we went from having real estate offices with the pictures of the homes and the prices. And the instruction we got from the Genman group was rip out the signs, no pictures in the window, no prices. Everybody's going to come in. And you got to talk to them once they come in the office. But the inquiry dropped. Yeah. Because people are going, well, if it's not priced, it must be way too much, or it must be so far out of my budget.
If I have to ask, I can't afford it.
So we just saw inquiry drop off, and our competitors across the street, their inquiry boosted. So I'm in agreement with that. See it. If it's in my budget, I'm going to ask questions. If it's not, self-qualification. But I love the figure, 8 times the inquiry.
And you've got to test. Every business is a little bit different. Every client target market is going to be a little bit different. And that's the key thing I encourage all of my clients. I was confident with that case study we talked about that he was going to get better quality clients, much better conversion rate, and earn more money as a result. We had to test it, and it could have delivered a different result. The reason I know it was 10-3-1 and became 10-9-9 was because we were measuring it. And if we'd got a different result, we would have tried something different.
Your numbers there, it's like you're reading my mind. When we had the old system, it was 10-9, no, it was 10-3-1, and then it went 10-9-3-5. So we got 10 people inquiring, 9 would buy our first product and service, 3 would move on to the high ticket, and then eventually 2 additional ones would come back after a period of time, and so it ended up being 5.
And I love what I'm hearing there around you having these introductory products, or these little purchases that people can make, which it's a fundamental part of the sales training, the sales hourglass that I talk to clients about, because it gives, for higher risk or higher ticket price kind of items, it gives that person that small little commitment that they can make, which has big returns. Both them, they'll get value out of that, and for you, because you've got someone who is much more committed and you can focus on.
Brian Tracy, he says, the first sale is important, but the second one is the most important because it's proved that you've delivered on the first. And we structure our model around that. Let us show you what we can do, and we'll start small. Once we deliver on that promise and the client gets a result, then for them to buy the next product and service is a real no-brainer. For them, they go, well, if you can prove it here, then we're confident, and we get those second and thirds. And I love what you're talking about, resales and referrals, because Australian businesses don't tend to have a referral program in place. I think it was 97% of businesses don't have a referral plan in place. Only 3% do.
I believe that. That's an extraordinary number when you know that that's going to give you higher conversion rates, higher value clients, and better clients. And yet everyone jumps onto Google and says, how do I do Facebook ads? How do I spend more money on marketing? And they've got that opportunity sitting right in front of them.
Yeah, like for us, for our business, we would say probably 85% is on the referral and strategic partner, like you said. So when you mentioned that, I'm just like, that's so spot on.
You think your husband's so smart now?
That's right.
I need to introduce you, Nini, to my beautiful wife.
I also know that earlier in one of your email, you mentioned about the sales hourglass. So I'm very curious about that. If you can share with our followers and friends your sales hourglass and how it can, help them to improve their sales and the revenues.
Yeah. Absolutely. What that breaks down is it adds a little bit more rigor and definition to the various steps that a client is going to go through on their journey into and working with your business. So you start at the top, the lead generation that comes in, you've got generally the contacts. And in most businesses, that's going to be the vast majority of people who are on your mailing list or your database. Your first step you want to move them down into is what I call the brand promise. Now, this is where intellectually they understand your business. They know why someone might want to work with you. They understand your brand promise, your positioning statement, your USP. They're not yet emotionally engaged themselves. And that's a useful distinction, because a lot of times in sales, we think we've communicated our brand, we think that person understands it, and therefore we think they're ready to buy. We need to take that extra step. So we go from contact to brand promise to engaged. And engaged is that point where they do emotionally engage with our solution. They shift from why would someone work with Jacob to why would I work with Jacob? Would I want this person in my business? Now, some people move through very, very quickly. The beautiful thing about the internet is that people can do their own research and they might come to you engaged. They might come to you ready to buy, or you've got to nurture them through that sequence. From engaged, again, that's where you might have a proposal and you might want to jump them to client. I do deliberately put that additional step, which is what I call the commitment product. It's exactly what we've just been talking about. If your core product is a big jump, having some kind of smaller commitment product that demonstrates your value, it essentially turns marketing into a profit center. If you've got something you can sell as part of your marketing journey, you can make money out of marketing. Why wouldn't you want to do that? And so that's the point to the middle: contact, brand promise, engaged, commitment, client. And then this is where so many businesses just stop the journey. That's why the sales funnel is so nefarious. What you've got the opportunity then is to scale it back up. So after they've become a client, product extension. What are the other services, products that you could be offering this client? They might already be buying them from somebody else. You can offer that. It may be as simple as the would you like fries with that kind of conversation. Or it may be that you start to identify a need in your client base that nobody else is solving. And there's a great saying from one of my early mentors, a guy called Darren Sherlaw, used to say, your second product is always more profitable. And that's because you know your clients and you're probably solving a problem that's incredibly valuable to them and that nobody else has seen. So from client, we start to fan out the hourglass product extension, and from there into community. So those clients that you have, what communities are they in? Are they able to share? And that can be as simple as you putting an article or a video in their newsletter that they send out to their client base, sharing something on their LinkedIn or Facebook page. And then the final one, the 8th level of the hourglass, is strategic referral channels. And these are those individuals that are essentially an unpaid sales force. For some reason, it benefits them to go out and sell your business. It makes them look good. It builds loyalty with their clients. It helps them understand the client base. And an hourglass doesn't wash out like a funnel. The sand runs through. And when if you're only making money in the middle bit, you can flip the hourglass and that sand's there. It comes back through. It's much more profitable and so much easier as a business when you've got all of those aspects working.
Brilliant.
100%. I'm sold.
Brilliant format. Brilliant format.
when I go into great businesses and, listening to some of your other interviews and conversations that you guys have done, you're doing lots of these things. There'll be elements there that maybe are a little bit different or it's described a little bit differently. What I love to bring to my clients is sometimes it is revolutionary to them. Sometimes they've got a great business, they're doing a lot of things, but they've never thought about putting together a framework. And they struggle to explain to their team why we do it a certain way or how it works or how things fit together. And being able to bring some of those simple concepts, chunk them out of the content up into the context so they know why they're doing sales, why they're doing marketing, gets the whole team on board. And again, that just drives a business forward.
It's a beautiful metaphorical description of the hourglass because we all know what it looks like. It's the shape of some lovely ladies' bodies as well. So, gentlemen, please remember it's that shape as well.
If I could do a pear-shaped sail, then I'd fit right in.
For people who don't know about resales and referrals, a resale takes 1/10 the time of a cold sale. And so once they've bought from you, the trust and the rapport's there, you're just making another recommendation.
Yeah.
They're also 1/15th easier than, you know, when you get a referral, it's 1/15th easier because they come across with 90% rapport. And what we teach our clients is that today, if we exclude Facebook and social media, the average person knows 300 people by first name. And 10% of those, based on the statistics, could be your ideal client. So if you've got 100 happy customers, they've got networks of, 30,000 people. And like you said before, it's your unpaid sales force. They're happy, they're talking about you, and they're doing the legwork for you.
Yeah.
So people who want to learn more about what you're doing, Jacob, and the work with the hourglass model here, where can they go to now to learn more about what you're doing?
Number of different ways. I mean, once you start Googling me, it's a rabbit warren of joy, which every now and then is a Guinness World Record story, and every now and then is some business support. My website is jacobaldridge.com. My most recent book is The Startup Business Guide, and that's available at startupbusinessguide.com and, of course, on Amazon, etc. And on YouTube, if you Google me, look me up on YouTube, there's a lot of videos around the sales hourglass and a number of the other business concepts that I take out and share. And I'm sure you'd be happy to share some of those links as well below this here on YouTube and other platforms so that people who want to know more can look into that. And my joy in life is helping business owners in whatever small way that I can. So I'm always responding to emails, having phone conversations, because the more I can help businesses, the more we help our broader economy, and what goes around comes around.
Incredible.
Lovely.
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge, your wisdom, and your advice today. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you, Jacob.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Have a wonderful day.